Welcome to One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on this episode, it is the always pleasant and cordial Glenn Hughes. We talk about his new album, Resonate, his father, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Deep Purple, and a lot more. Before that, please check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON, on Facebook, One-on-One Mitch Lafon, and paypal.me/Mitch Lafon should you care to support the podcast. And with that, here is the one, the only, Glenn Hughes. We are speaking with Glenn Hughes. The new album is Resonate. Good day, sir.
Good day, Mitch, and good day, everybody.
Good. Always pleasure to talk to you. So, we'll start off right then and there with the album. The word resonate obviously means, if a message resonates with you, whether it's a political one or something.
Right.
Talk to me about choosing the album title, and how do you expect this album musically to resonate with fans?
Well, I think it must have been around the halfway mark when I was writing this album. The way I did this album, Mitch, was I was, as you know, recovering from my double knee replacements early this year, around the springtime, right before into the Hall of Fame in April. I was at home recovering, doing physical therapy, and I had the opportunity to have a window of opportunity to write some new music. So I went into my studio, and for the first time in my career, which is a long one, I decided I'm going to write a song entirely musically, and then I'm going to write the lyric, and I'm going to sing it in one long session. So I'd break after, before dinner, and then I'd go after dinner and I'd write lyrics and sing. So every day I would come into the studio with an open canvas and I would paint this new song, this new picture. And I think by song 4 or 5, I realized, and the word resonate kept popping into my head, and this word resonate, maybe it was in a dream, I have no idea. I know what the word means. Didn't have to Google it to figure out what it meant, but it absolutely was a key element of where this album was going for me. That word resonate was like, I had other ideas for using a song title from the album, and then I started to think, I'm always, the first thing that comes into my mind is always the one that stays with me. So resonate was, I think, the right title.
Yeah, I think so too. And I had a chance to hear the album, and musically, it does resonate with me. You've said that this is the most grounded rock album you've made to date. In what sense is it the most grounded? And were the other ones ungrounded because of personal issues and circumstance? No, so please.
I think very, very simple. This album was wrote, as you know, this is the first album I've done as a solo artist in 8 years. So here I am alone in my home with, all my band members don't live in Los Angeles. And, as you know, Mitch, I'm a songwriter, and more so now than ever before. And songs are as important to me as singing. They're so important. And I had this free time to go in my studio and write alone. And I felt it was the right thing to do. Hence me saying that this is the first complete grounding album I've done in a while, or maybe ever, simply because it's a real Glenn album, as everything is written and arranged by me. And I love working with other people and writing with other people. I think it's been a good thing for me. But, I just thought, let's give it a go, and let's just make it a real Glenn solo album. Like McCartney's album, his first album, I think he was the only musician that played on it. So it's like I wanted to do something like that and write on many different instruments and give myself some freedom, and that's where we're at with this record.
Right, and But how is that different from California Breed? Because when you look at California Breed, you were sort of the main guy. You were the main attraction, if you, for the lack of a better description. How is this solo album different than what you were doing with that? Did you not have the same sort of control and input and creative?
No,
No.
yeah, I mean, let's talk about that, because whilst working with Joe, Jason, and Derek in Black Country, and working with Jason and Andrew in California Breed, you're working within the realms of a band. You have partners, and you have to realize it doesn't matter who's writing the most or who's writing the little. You're in a room full of other band members, and you're all on the same page. You're all in the same studio, and although I do write a lot of music, and this time, this is the first album I've made outside of Black Country. I mean, there's 3 albums there, and the live DVD, and a California Breed album. This is the first time I found myself alone to write, an album. And I had a huge amount of material I was writing. Just wanted to give myself an opportunity to do that.
And by the way, I can hear the dogs in the background, and we'll talk about that too, because you're very much into animal control. Not animal control, but animal rights and.
I'm going to leave I'm actually going to leave my own home and go into my yard to talk to you, because my dogs will be doing an interview for me in a minute.
All right, and I've got mine next to my feet that's about to do the same thing. But go ahead.
So Mitch, absolutely love playing in Black Country Communion, and Cali Breed was great. And here was Glenn Hughes now alone, doing what he does on his own. And it's crazy to tell you this, but I've been doing this for 4 decades, and I've never really done an album, a solo album, that was never written completely by myself. And so when I went into the studio to play, my band had not heard any music. They had not heard anything that I had done. So as I did when I was in my studio writing this stuff, I went in to the studio in Copenhagen and started to play them one song at a time. We started on a Monday, and the first song we cut was Steady. So here we are, and I was, telling them how I felt about the way it should be recorded, and how Lockie, the keyboard player, should start kind of with the Hammond organ, if you like, kind of Deep Purple Mark III-ish, if you will. And that's the way we did it. And each day we'd complete a song, as I did in the studio in my home. And then we went to the next track until we had 12 tracks recorded. And it was very fresh and vibrant, and it revitalized me. And again, it grounded me. It made me realize, what I probably have been missing for quite some time was the freedom to be able to do what I thought was an appropriate sounding Glenn rock album. There's only one slow song on this album, as I wanted to channel what was coming through. I don't know, man. I just wanted to make a really vibrant, modern rock record, and everybody seems to be on board with that. I'm so happy that it's, again, people are listening to it and going, well, he's finally done it. He's done the album a lot of us have been waiting for. So I'm really glad that I can be of service in that department.
So, and let me ask you about that, because that was one of the quotes that I had heard from before. You said it's the album that fans have been waiting for. For you, though, is it, and I don't want to say cathartic, but that's the only word coming to mind, to actually work on these songs alone? Because in that band dynamic, is it sometimes frustrating for you to not have that voice and that vision and have to sort of share the vision? Is this more rewarding?
What I've learned, if you will, I learned a huge amount in Deep Purple, but in those years, I'm not the man I am today. I was different, and I was a little bit, just say a little bit unfocused, but I really enjoyed being in Deep Purple. It was a huge thing for me. But in sobriety and absolutely since Black Country started in 2010, I've worked with incredible musicians and incredible producer, and I've learned so much by what I do in my life. I love to study. I love to sit back and watch people do what they do, and I take little bits of this, I take little bits of that, I put it into the way I like to live my life. I love to be around constructive, loving, nurturing, smart people, you know. I love to read books, and I like to be silent most of the time. You know, I do like talking through my music. So what I've learned from the start of Black Country all the way to Resonate was I've learned so much about recording and so much more about songwriting that I think it's very relevant and prevalent on Resonate of what I have learned. And long may that continue. I always want to be a student of music and life until they throw the dirt over me at the end. I never want to be, Glenn Hughes is the complete article. He's found his missing groove. Nope. I'm always going to be searching for that thing. I'm always going to be trying to figure out how can I move on from this and get to the next platform. It's a beautiful thing to know that.
Yeah, it actually really is. You know, we've done many interviews over the last little bit, so I want to go in some different directions. Recently in the news, Wolverhampton Wanderers fired Walter Zenga, and that's one of your favorite teams.
Yeah, sure.
Did you...
Well, you know...
Yeah.
Go on, Mitch.
Well, I was just going to say, were you ever... You know, did you ever have that crossroads where you decided, where you had to choose between I'm going to do music or I'm going to do sports? I mean, were you an athletic sports guy? Okay.
Yes. I don't think we've ever talked about it. But as a child, as I was in the school team, football team, soccer to Americans.
Right.
And but in Canada, you guys call it football. So I don't know. It's like as a preteen, I was in the team, and then as a teenager, I moved into midfield, and at age 13, I played for my school team. Then I played for the town I was living in. Then I played for the county. You know, it was like I was like doing what kids do in hockey. At school. My nephews, really, really into hockey. So I thought I was going to be, a soccer player. I mean, I was really studying. I was playing, every day and playing in the evening, and my family were behind what I was doing. And all of a sudden, that's when I heard the Beatles, and it was like immediately. I didn't stop playing soccer. I didn't stop putting my boots on and stop, wanting to play sports because I still am a sports fanatic. But I had to choose because I can't do two things at once. I'm not one of these guys that can actually do a few things. I got to concentrate on only one. And when I heard the Beatles, that was it. And I think I did the right thing. I think I did exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Music has given me so many incredible memories and gifts, and I'm so astonished that I'm still here to do this work and this life I've been freely given, and I am so grateful.
Yeah, and it is, if you look at it over the long term, the better career choice, because you can sort of play music until, you look at Chuck Berry, he just turned 90 and he's still going strong, and whereas most soccer players or hockey players, by 30, 35, it's done.
Well, I'm good friends with Robbie Keane, the captain of the LA Galaxy. So I mean, we talk about the longevity of an athlete compared to, like, Frank Sinatra was a friend of mine in the 80s, and looking at Frank, and then he's got another 40 years on most people at cricket playing soccer at 38. 38 is a year that most soccer players give up, or basketball might be a little bit different. But
yeah, well, it's when the bodies give up. It's when the knees give up,
Well, it's like, again, when you're 22 years old, you're not thinking about anything other than what's on your plate at that particular moment. And that was the Deep Purple years, and it was bigger, larger than life, and it was, as you know, it was an amazing run for me and the band. And then, you go through the decades and you do this, you do that, and I get clean and sober, and then I start working a lot and start taking care of myself, and I find myself making record after record after record and working with so-and-so and so-and-so and learning what to do and what not to do. Once again, I'm an avid listener and I like to people watch. I like to go and see what are these guys doing? What's going on here? I mean, what can I learn from this? Mitch, everyone is my teacher. Whether they're one of my manager's kids is like 13, and he loves his Uncle Glenn. He's Uncle Glenn for his Halloween. He's going to be me on his Halloween party tonight. It's like, oh my God! I mean, who wants to be Uncle Glenn? I mean, it's like unbelievable. So all I know is that I wouldn't change a thing. I'm smiling as I'm chuckling to you when I say these things.
Right.
Because,
and I'm sure a lot of people around the world want to be Uncle Glenn, by the way. You've had a pretty outstanding life. So,
well, I'm glad they're going to. I actually don't have any children, so I'm honored to have anybody call me an uncle. But I'm really, truly grateful. I can't express to you the kind of year I've had with once again having these knee surgeries, as we spoke about earlier this year, Mitch, and then having my father die at the same day as I get inducted at the Hall of Fame was talk about having something to sing about on Resonate. Talk about what I can, I've got such a deep well of information that I can't write songs at 24 or 25 like I can right now. I didn't have any life experience, I'm really glad that some of my friends or my age are still making some really great music. But a lot of my friends at this age are either retiring or have kind of disappeared or gone under the radar. But it's like crazy for me. I've got Resonate coming now, and Backcountry Communion 4 is in January. Joe's been here all week, and we're writing this new album. So it's going to be a hell of a year for me. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And by the way, Joe would be an interview I would love to get at some point. But and my condolences, by the way, on the passing of your father, William. I can't imagine how that must have been, especially on the day. But so let me just ask you about that though. Going through everything that you've gone through this year, William passing away, the knees, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where the band doesn't want to let you play, and some of those things. Well, that's sort of, if I can say it for you, insulting. Maybe that's not the right word, but that's the word I would have. Why didn't you just go ahead?
Look, Mitch, we've talked before about a bunch of stuff, and I feel very open with you. And I can't. David and I could not make a call on us playing with Mark II, if you want to call them that. I knew going into it that we would not be invited. I did say to David, let's just take a chill pill and go up there, and we'll accept our awards. And I'm really good friends with Robin and Rick and Tom and Cheap Trick and Paul Schaefer, and I knew they were going to ask me and him to sing. And I said, don't worry, it's going to be great. So we were there to be of service to the fans and to rock fans in general, and it was a great moment for me. But behind the scenes, I knew my dad was on his deathbed. I knew it. I knew it 2 days before I was in New York. I did not discuss this with anyone, with management or people or friends, or just I kept it between me and my mum and my Gabby. and we just kept it quiet. And it was I had to keep it together, up on that stage. It was not easy, but I learned so much about that experience for me that has helped me today. That my dad was deceased as I was doing my speech, and he was watching me from, as they say in the United Kingdom, he was watching me from the royal box. I know my dad was proud of me, number one, for having success as a child, and number two, for recovering from drugs and alcohol, and number three, for getting a career back on track, and number four, for being an educated young man. So that award was absolutely dedicated to him. And I went on to record Resonate, which could be, people are saying, my finest work. So, again,
it's great work.
I'm overwhelmed.
You mentioned the drug stuff, and we've interviewed before, and we talked about Seventh Star and Black Sabbath and how you were out of it. And so how was that for your family to deal with that? Were they of any help? I mean, I'm assuming they must. I mean, or were you an exceptional disappointment, or is that none of my business?
No. Back in the day,
right,
Mitch. Let's get down to it here.
Okay.
This is before. Alcoholics Anonymous has been around a long time.
Correct.
A long time. But the Betty Ford Center has not been, or treatment centers like Hazelden, and there's many across America now. But these weren't around when I was falling off the wagon and when I was trying to find a ray of hope. I was never really a happy dude being overserved at the bar or whatever I was doing inappropriate. I never felt a moment of, oh my God, this is so much fun. I always knew on the backside of this was going to be trouble. So in the town that I was born in the United Kingdom, a place called Cannock, Cannock, I was also known as a very famous musician, but also a very famous a guy that used to sit at the bar and fall off bar stools. It was not easy for my mum and dad to live with that when they've got a son who's always on the TV, like gossip, and there's actually some gossip that I'd actually died in 1983. So all these things I had to deal with, and it was like when I finally did get sobriety in 91, it was a life-changing experience and a game changer for me, to who people were putting bets on, oh, he's going to be the next one, oh, Hughes is going to be the next one. Well, I was very fortunate to have found the life I have now and the freedom and to take the shackles, and I was not in bondage anymore. It's a really good feeling to be on the right side of the grass, let me tell you.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did your parents ever come to you and say, hey, son, you're a disappointment to us? Did it ever get to that kind of level, or did you sort of just, did you feel that? Did you sort of say, what have I done?
No, I think,
okay.
in trapeze,
Yes.
I didn't really suffer from the addiction until Purple.
Okay.
And I think it was around, year two, around 74-ish, where I had meetings with members of Deep Purple's management and the finance people behind the band that I may have been spending too much money, or what's all this? Were you giving who? Who's going to get all this money? He was like, yeah, I was obviously going out of control. So, and it was like my parents did get involved in that because it was their kind of, it wasn't their business, but I wanted it to be their business. But they didn't know about drug addiction back in the 70s in England. They didn't even know how to say cocaine. Cocaine? What was cocaine? No, it's funny now, but it wasn't funny back then. So
no.
They never really. I mean, we did discuss this, by the way, when I went into my first treatment in 1976, which didn't work at all because they didn't have a 12-step program back then. They just filled me full of like Valium or something to take the edge off. It's not even funny to talk about it. It's almost, like I was trying to do anything to stop killing myself. I would have done anything to stop all that and but I had to go through what I had to go through to get to the other side.
And with that, we were interrupted to let Glenn know that his next interview was waiting for him online. I did get to finish with one last comment, so let's check it out. Here it is. Well, all right,
So,
Glenn.
Mitch, have you got everything?
Well, I've got everything, and I had a bunch more, but we'll do another one at some other point. But always a pleasure, Glenn. And
My pleasure.
you. Thank you as always.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, Mitch. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mitch. Bye-bye.
And there you have it, folks, my interview with the always pleasant Glenn Hughes. Just imagine, we could have been saying Glenn Hughes the footballer rather than Glenn Hughes the singer. And with that, I bid you a fond farewell. Thank you for listening. Auf Wiedersehen. Au revoir. Bye for now. Oh my.